Hello, YouTube. So, this is my first gun review on YouTube. Of course, if you talk to my friends and stuff, I've always got an opinion. Recently, I took a little delve onto the other side of the tracks as being kind of a SIG enthusiast. I decided it was time to branch out, sort of expand my weapons portfolio. And I went out, and if you could probably already guess, as the other side of the tracks for a SIG person is a Glock. And I went ahead and picked up a Glock 19 over Christmas. And while I talk, we'll go ahead and go through a 3-point to show that I'm not going to be the next guy on YouTube to fire a round off in his house while he's trying to make some sort of video, which is fucking retarded. So we don't even need that in there right now. Real quick, what I wanted to go over was some of the likes and the dislikes that I found after coming from a SIG background, which I like very much, to a Glock platform. So, first and foremost, one of the things that I disliked the most about this pistol was its complex takedown. And I know there's a lot more complex weapons to take apart in the field. I've got a 1921 Astra that you've got to go through like 10 steps just to take the thing apart. I mean, my girlfriend's P38. You've got to hold this here while you remove pin there and then slot pin there. And whatever the hell you do, don't take the safety off or it's going to fly the fucking apart in your hands and yada, yada, yada. But the catch for the slide release I found a little bit clumsy, especially the fact that you have to depress the trigger beforehand, go back 1/16 of an inch, and then you have the weapon in two pieces. Now that I have it down, I'll start from the frame. So the frame, polymer, incredibly light. That's kind of cool. It's cool to have something so light. I did think it was weird, and it might be a little difficult to see there, how thin the material is right there. It kind of makes you wonder about how strong it possibly could be. The other thing I wasn't a fan of, but I'm going to let Glock's reputation sort of speak for itself, considering that thousands and thousands of people actually use these in a professional manner, swear to their reliability and their durability. But the fact that your slide only catches about 5/8 of an inch there and 5/8 of an inch there for the entire travel action of the pistol, and the rest is just open, kind of disconcerting to me. But like I said, I'm going to go ahead and let Glock's reputation speak for itself on that. One thing I do like, outside the fact that the upper part is not exactly anything to write home about. It's pretty standard for a handgun these days. You've got your barrel assembly, your firing pin, all that fun assembly stuff. I do like, versus the SIG, how they put the cotter pin on here so your spring doesn't come flying off the rod every time you disassemble it. It's not a huge deal, but it is sort of a pain in the ass when I'm taking the SIG apart to make sure that that rod doesn't go shooting into the neighbor's yard or through a window or something like that. What I am a fan of, in terms of it was difficult to take apart, unlike the SIG, this is very easy to put back together. Once again, just to make sure the fairy godmother didn't load it. Okay, we're all good. Things I do like about this pistol compared to the SIG is the height of the barrel over the hand is very low. So recoil is very manageable. Personally, my favorite handgun is my P220. It's a 45, probably about 1/4 of an inch higher barrel over the hand, so the recoil is a lot more pronounced. You have to have a much more aggressive grip to maintain accuracy while you're shooting. The Glock, much more ergonomic kind of feel. It took a minute to get used to. I'm not a huge fan of the sights, especially since the stock sights out of the factory are plastic, and even just in the storage, I've already put a couple of little things on there. Kind of difficult to see, but when you're getting OCD and you see a little scratch on your gun, you're like, oh my god. So just storage wise, it kind of damages the sights. Also the fact that they came just white painted, and the SIG comes stock with the tritium. Yeah, the SIG costs twice as much, so I don't know what I'm whining about there. But either way, one thing I'm not crazy about, and this was the very first modification that I made to the pistol. And by the way, when they talk about the endless mods for Glock, the first thing I think of is, oh, it's like a Honda Civic handgun. Here's this grocery getter, but if you put twice as much value as the car's worth and parts into it, it's an awesome performance car. And that's kind of the impression that I got with the Glock. And so far, I'm kind of feeling that because it's like, all right, oh, here's this thing out of the box, but first you're going to want to upgrade your sights, and then you're going to want to get a plug so you don't get dirt up inside that thing. And, oh yeah, the mag release. Sort of, this one's a pet peeve of mine. The very first mod, and I'll show you right there, was an oversized mag release because, and I don't know if this is true anywhere else, but in California, before you're allowed to take your weapon home, you have to pass the firearms proficiency test to show that you can safely manipulate and operate the handgun. Part of the test is after you've loaded a dummy round, you have to release the magazine, eject the dummy round, and then lock the gun. Well, I noticed right away, and the guy over the counter even told me you're going to want this, that because of my tiny girl hands here, women can shoot really well, by the way. I'm not taking a knock at that, but I have little hands. Depressing the mag release was difficult. It was flush to the gun. So I had to maneuver the pistol in such a way that I could get the release done. So I said, okay, yeah, absolutely, send me the, or just give me the extended mag release. So I popped that in. Well, first time I went shooting it, I realized there's a problem with this mag release. And I'm pretty sure this goes across all Glock models, but as you can see, if you press the mag release on this side has to pop out. So if you happen to be covering this and you try and release the mag with your left hand, it can be a little difficult because you're pressing it up against the inside of your trigger finger. Do not rest your trigger finger on the trigger when you're reloading, anytime other than when you're shooting. If you didn't know that, you shouldn't be watching this shit in the first place. You should be learning how to use a squirt gun. I noticed that when I shot this left-handed, let me see if I can give a little demonstration here. The hand covers up quite a bit of ejection point right there. And while I was shooting it left-handed, I went ahead, squeezed the trigger, round goes off, mag dump. I thought it was because I didn't properly seat the mag, so I played with it a few more times afterward, but it turned out it was because my left hand knuckle would touch that and dump the mag out. So that I was a little bit disappointed about, considering that the factory one came flush. It was pretty difficult to operate normally, but you probably wouldn't get a mag dump if you're using it in your weak hand. I like to practice ambidextrously. If one hand's disabled for some reason, I would hate to not be able to be effective with my handgun. Plus, as a right-handed rifle shooter, there are advantages that I have found and been told by my brothers in the military to being a left-handed shooter on one platform and a right-handed shooter on the other. I'm a journeyman electrician, so I'm kind of ambidextrous when it comes to tool use and stuff like that, so being able to shoot a pistol left-handed really isn't that difficult for me. I'm still right-eye dominant, so I kind of do a strange crossover, but it's not a huge deal. Outside of those issues, so far, the mag dump with the left hand was really the only malfunction. I'm still within the 1,000 break-in rounds of this gun, which is why it was so dirty earlier. So don't clean it, so I have not cleaned it yet. My overall impression is a really fun gun to shoot. The ammunition is obviously pretty cheap at 9mm. Not going to get into the whole 9mm versus 45 thing because that's kind of silly. Tommy Lee Jones swears by it, so you got that going for you. The only other thing that I kind of was a little bit disenfranchised with the whole Glock, other than the fact that it was the really flush mag release, the operating levers are kind of tiny, and it took a little while to get the thumb feeling down to be able to operate the slide lock seamlessly. There were a few times it was slipping off, and I kind of really had to edge in right there. Not a huge fan of the drop in the bucket sights or the thickness or the width of the trigger. The lack of a decocking mechanism or any kind of safety outside of the trigger safety here, I kind of find a little bit of a bummer. I wouldn't feel as safe holding this loaded as I would be having it unloaded. Versus my SIG, where it's you load a chamber, you can decock it, and then you know you're down to a double action, which is about 8 pounds of force on the trigger, or I don't know. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to put my thumb on it. Probably gonna have to edit that part out for time. But anyway, those are my first impressions just on the build of the Glock 19. I'm not exactly some John Wick status shooter, just a hobbyist. I have a lot of fun. You can check my other video to see the mag dump. And hopefully I'll have some more reviews coming up soon. But, totally boring, stoic personality. I really don't know why you'd want to watch me.